Nobody told you that removing your gallbladder would change the way your entire body digests fats, balance hormones, absorbs nutrients. That silence is why you're still struggling. These 10 tiny habits that I'm about to share with you are what I wish someone had handed me on the way out of surgery. You are a woman without a gallbladder. And just by being a woman, you already means your body operates in flux, hormonal cycling, needs shifting, energy ebbing and flowing. Now, layer on top of that a missing organ that was responsible for storing and releasing bile, helping your body break down fat, and clearing excess estrogen from your system. So, here's what frustrates me about what most women are told after surgery: nothing. Or even worse, avoid fatty foods, and in a few weeks, you'll totally be fine. And yet, here you are. You're still bloated, you're still tired, you're still frustrated, still gaining weight, wondering what's going on inside your body. You're trying to eat well, you're exercising, you're trying to do the things, all the things, and it's just not working. And the research on women without gallbladders is genuinely limited. And the advice floating around online, it just makes me cringe. So most of it comes from people who still have their gallbladder. So everything they tell you is theoretical. And I've lived this. I've healed from this. And today I'm giving you the 10 habits that actually move the needle, for me and my clients more than anything else. So the 10 things you can start today. This is not one of those 90-day protocols and a supplement stack of you have to go buy all these things. These are 10 tiny doable things rooted in God's design for your body. And that are the things that are going to create real cumulative healing. So my story, of course, begins when I started having small symptoms, small digestive symptoms, but being told, everything's normal. That's fine. That's what women go through. And I had my gallbladder out, and they put me in the car before I even had fully gained consciousness. I just barely remember like looking around going, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Where am I? And I was not fine. They told me in a couple of weeks, you'll be fine. And I never was fine again. And I thought, is this my life? Is this something that I'm going to have to be dealing with forever? And in time, other things got worse. So maybe the pain sort of went away. I stopped having as many attacks, but those came again later. And that's a whole other story because that's the liver, because the gallbladder got taken out, which some people still suffer with. But I started getting things like chronic fatigue and, of course, weight gain. I gained about 50 pounds and hormone problems, infections like SIBO, H. pylori, and no one helped me. So I had to figure it out myself. I did this by putting myself through school. I got a degree in holistic nutrition. And then I went on to earn 13 different certifications because I was completely enamored with how the body works. And I was able to heal myself from something that people weren't giving me information with, or just told me, well, this is just the way it is, deal with it. And so I studied digestion, and I studied massage, I studied breath work, I studied movement, I became a personal trainer, I was a fitness instructor, all of these things, kind of pushing, trying things, tweaking what works for me, working with clients, what works for them, gathering data. And so I had to test what works and cut out what doesn't. I'm a minimalist at heart. I lived several years from 2014 to 2020, 26. I guess I just moved out this year, in an RV. And so with 3 kids, and raised my 3 kids there. So, we just don't have a lot of space. I don't like surplus things. If it works, keep it. If it doesn't, get it out. And this is how I built my practice: is no nonsense. I don't want to make anyone think that they have to do 1,000 things. 1,000 things that don't work. I'd rather them do the 10 things that do. And one of the things I really, really wish I would have been told after I had gotten my gallbladder out, and I want to tell every woman, and I want to shout it from the rooftops, is I wish the doctor would have said, we took out your gallbladder, but you still need to heal your digestion. But instead we took out your gallbladder, see ya. And so my digestion went from bad to worse. My hormones went from being slightly imbalanced to crazy imbalanced. So nobody told you and why you're still struggling is there is a lie that you should, eat low fat for a few weeks and you'll be fine. Like I said, most women and men even are given that information, and it's not true. The reality is that bloating, fatigue, weight gain, and hormonal imbalances and infections are what start to happen, right? When we're not fixing this. And the gap between that is that there was no guidance, no follow-up care, no one asking how you feel, no protocol, um, no education so you understand what was going on in your body. So we're being given misinformation, and then we're living in this reality that we just don't understand how we got here, and we're living in that confusion. And unfortunately, that takes us to, some Facebook group pages where I don't know who's on the other end, and they're giving all this crazy advice and saying it as though it's gospel. And I want to start to debunk those things because suffering is optional. You can actually heal and kind of heal quickly. I've worked with women who've been dealing with this for 30, 40 years, and we get them in balance within 6 months. And so it's amazing how the body works. It does take a little bit of time, um, and consistent effort, but it's totally doable. God designed your body to heal, and it just needs the right conditions. So we need to stop doing the things that are damaging the body, which that's different for everybody. I had someone call me. Um, well, it was probably 6 months ago, and they were like, "I don't know what happened, but somehow I ended up here." And as I dug a little bit deeper, they lived on fried fatty foods, they drank, they smoked a lot, they didn't exercise, and then they're wondering why they can't heal their body. And so when we started working together, we started shifting that, little things at a time, bite-sized pieces, these 10 little things that I'm going to be sharing with you are what we started with. And she started feeling so much better right out of the gate. All right. Once you know this, once you know why this is happening, I know you're like, get to the 10 tips and habits, and I will, but I want to lay a foundation because the foundation is really important. That we know that the gallbladder stored bile and released it in these perfect bursts when you ate. We know this, but after removal, what happens is the bile drips continuously from the liver, and it's never enough and it's never timed right. So we have to go in there and make some changes. And so when that happens, the result is that we have this undigested fat, bloating, weight gain, that hormonal chaos, vitamin deficiency, confusion. We get depression, even all of these things start to happen. And this is not the life that God designed for you, even after gallbladder surgery. And in 1 Corinthians 6:19, it says, your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And I believe that the Holy Spirit will reside in a body that we take care of, that we steward. And God did not design our bodies to stay broken. And, and people are like, well, we got our gallbladders out. That wasn't God. It's like, no, it wasn't. But feel God is a God of contingencies. He knows when we're going to do things and how things are going to go. And he puts plans, he puts plants, he puts protocols, all these things. Like he has a plan for this. And his plan is to restore us. And so that comes through alignment. So let's talk about these 10 habits because they're small but powerful. So the first habit is ox bile with every fat meal. So I want to tell you, so what really made me want to think about doing this video is I was really craving Indian food. I love Indian food, but it's really fatty and it's delicious. And it's not something I do all the time, but when I do, if I don't do certain things when I have this, because of course you have to eat a lot of it. It's not like, I'm going to have 3 or 4 bites and it'll be fine. So I do these things I'm about to talk to you about, and I did this today. And so I knew I was going out to have some Indian food. So I made sure to hydrate before, like all morning. And then I made sure to have ox bile, and then I made sure to have bitters before I left, and I went on a walk. So I used 4 of these, and we'll go through these. So I don't want you to get stuck up that I went through that so fast. So one of the things I did is habit number 1 is have ox bile with every fat meal. And so this matters because that dripping for the bile isn't enough for this whole cascade of fat I was about to put into my body. And so what we do is you can start out with about 125 milligrams with any meal that has fat in it. So I took 2 ox bile, and in the show notes, it'll show my favorite supplements because I've tried them all, and some of them don't work. And so a lot of people will be like, well, ox bile doesn't work for me. Well, the one I have has gentian in it, that's also a bitter, and some other things that actually go in and help digestion. So it's my favorite. And you start low and slow. And without it, I absolutely have bloating and fatigue, like I want to take a nap after I eat. And my food doesn't really get digested. So I always make sure to have that. All right. The second thing I did before I went to go eat is I had digestive bitters. And I talk about this all the time. I make my own because I take a lot. So I had about probably 2 tablespoons of bitters with some water. This is about a half hour before we ate. So it's getting my body geared up for this big meal that is so delicious. And I'm so happy I had it. So bitter foods, they wake up that digestion before the food arrives. And so it's like sending that signal that says, hey, I'm about to eat something really big. And it helps with enzymes, and it helps with, the stomach acid. So it starts to gear up the body. It's like the warm up before a marathon. So we use, and they say about 10 to 15 minutes. I like to do about 20 minutes to a half hour. Or sometimes I bring my bitters. I always have bitters in my purse. So if we're like out and about and we're like, hey, should we stop and eat? I always have it. And that's when I eat. They have about 10 to 15 minutes if it's last minute, but I like about 20 to 30 minutes. And again, this primes that bile flow and that enzymatic reaction, which is just amazing. All right. The third thing is eat smaller meals. And a lot of people say, oh, eat smaller, frequent meals, but that is not true. Especially because our body is working so hard to digest anyway, we don't need more and more food. We actually need to listen to the signals our body is giving us. So our liver, again, is just dripping that bile, and it needs time to adjust and to keep up. And so we eat smaller portions. And I'm not saying starve yourself at all. I'm saying in Japan, I can't remember the phrase they use, but it's where you eat till 80%, you're 80% full, and you save that 20%. And that's just what I'm asking you to try is I have a whole podcast about the 1/3 rule, where you fill 1/3 with fluid. So like I said, I hydrated 1/3 of my stomach with food, and then 1/3 I kept empty so it can agitate. Think of a laundry washer, clothes washer, that if you just stuffed it full of clothes and didn't have hardly any water on it and then no room to agitate it, your clothes wouldn't get clean. But if you have the right amount of water and you have the right amount of clothes and then the right amount of room to agitate it, suddenly it starts to get clean. And that's really, in essence, what we're trying to do. So every meal should include some fat when your body's ready for it. So when I'm working with clients and they come to me and they're sick, every once in a while, depending on their evaluation, we will actually eliminate fat for just 2 weeks to a month, just to clean stuff out, get their digestion going, and then reintroduce fat slowly and with the herbs and with the ox bile. And it just works so perfectly. But that's something I do inside my container with people. And eating like this also balances blood sugar and hormones. So we're starting to get into a good rhythm of healing. I had another client before she came in. She was like, I just want to do these few things. And I said, that's fine. But when you're healing, you're creating a healing lifestyle. So if lifestyle A that got you into this mess, then you need lifestyle B to get you out of this mess. But if you get out of that mess and you go back to lifestyle A, you're going to end up in the same situation. You can't expect differently, I guess. All right, habit number 4 is we're going to support the liver every day. And so this is something I just added into my lifestyle. This is something I do every day. So the liver is now doing the work of 2 organs. And if you don't support it daily, everything slows down. Everything from hormone, Bile's hormone, energy. It's one of the first, it is the first thing when someone comes in, it's like, okay, we're going to heal digestion while simultaneously supporting your liver. And I do this with herbs, things like milk thistle, dandelion root tea, warm lemon water first thing in the morning. All of my clients do this, getting into the rhythm. And of course, cutting back on alcohol and processed seed oils. And another thing that a lot of people don't really understand they should back out of is over-the-counter pain medication. That's very hard on the liver. And so people, I had a student he was a football, he played football at the university that I taught at. And he comes up to me and he's like, so I've been taking a lot of ibuprofen and because I'm sore all the time. And I was like, we probably should find out why you're sore all the time because that's not good for you. He goes, well, I'm exercising. I play football, so I'm sore all the time. And so I said, okay, I just want to, why do you need to take medication? Are there other things you could do? So we kind of set up something for him. We said, okay, do an ice bath after practice. And you can take a teaspoon of baking soda in water at night on an empty stomach, and it will help get rid of the lactic acid and you won't be as sore. And he's like, okay, I'm willing to try it. So he did it for a week and he came back and he said, oh my gosh, like I don't have to take ibuprofen, Advil. He was taking, he was rotating them. And so we don't have to do these things. We think we do because we don't have another solution, but there are solutions. So you don't have to continue to pop these. And also if you're in chronic pain, there is a reason why. So I know when I was starting to feel a lot of pain in my joints and my hands. And I was like, gosh, I'm getting sore. And a lot of people, say, oh, it's because we're getting old. I'm like, no. I'm not buying that. That is not something I'm going to be listening to. And when I started really focusing on acid reducing foods and healing practices and reducing stress and things, pain goes away, right? So it's my body signaling. It's a symptom, but it's not the root problem. It's just saying, hey, I need some help here. And so I gave it the help it needs. So there is real healing and real women doing this every day. So Alicia came to me and she was exhausted, bloated, anxious, and she couldn't get pregnant because her hormones were all over the place. And after working together, she lost 20 pounds and started sleeping through the night. And she had a beautiful baby. It was super fun. All right. The 5th habit I'm going to share with you is vitamins and movement. So when you have poor fat digestion, you really can't break down things to absorb them. So just because something comes in and comes out doesn't mean it's been absorbed and utilized correctly. So these can make our hormones wonky. It can make our mood go all over the place. It can even, in my case, I started experiencing osteopenia. So first thing we do is we fix digestion. I have a free training on that because you must understand what kind of digestion you have. There are 3 different types. So we can't fix digestion if we don't know which type we have because each of them need different things. So we focus on that. In the show notes, you're going to see my free training. 3 simple and easy tips to heal digestion in 7 days. So please go take a look at that because that's primary. That's the first thing we do. And then you'll get information on each one of the types and what to do. So the other one is you want to eat foods that are high in A, D, E, and K2. So liver, which I'm not a big fan of liver, so I don't usually ever eat liver, egg yolks, good butter. But the big one for me is get sunshine. It's the sun hitting the skin that starts to really make those changes in the body and creating that vitamin D and those hormones. All right, so habit number 6 is a 10-minute walk after eating, helping your body move along. So that's also what I did after eating Indian food today. Is my husband and I went on a walk around the block, and we go on the walk after every meal. We try to, and I have a video here that I will link that will talk all about the benefits of doing this. But just to start, I mean, like it's pretty amazing how wonderful this is. So just to start, it helps spread bile through the small intestines and also keeps blood sugar steady. And so it's not exercising, it's not getting out there for a jog. It's really a gentle stroll, and especially helpful after your biggest meals, dinner, lunch, and it's just a reminder that it's not a great idea to eat and then sleep, right? Even though we might want to feel like it, if you can get up and move a little bit, it will help your digestion so much. All right, the 7th habit is hydration, and it's hydration with a purpose. And there is bile is 85% water. And when you're dehydrated, bile gets thick and sluggish and can even become dangerous, which a lot of women know because they don't have their gallbladder. So a lot of people will say, and I crossed it out here, drink half your body weight in ounces of water daily. We keep hearing this. I'm not saying not to do that. But what I'm saying is a better marker is to watch your urine. You do not want your urine to get clear. And I know a lot of people say, you want your urine to get clear. That's when you flushed out all the minerals. So we want it to be a light hay color. And so for some of us who hold on and utilize water really well, I'm not one of those, actually don't need as much as half our weight in ounces. And that can be, we can feel waterlogged, it could slow digestion, it can even become dangerous. But for some of us, half our body weight in ounces, totally fine. But the better rule of thumb is look at your urine. And I have a whole training on that inside my program because that's how important it is. Also looking at our bowel movements, looking at if we're still cycling, our period, looking at your tongue, looking at your eyes, I do a lot of what to look at in the body for real-time support. All right. Also, you can add a pinch of mineral salt and electrolytes. I like living water, just that's structured and, every once in a while having fresh pressed juices and herbal teas. I love Gynostemma, which is kind of a weird name, but it's by the company Dragon, no affiliation, but it's one of my favorites. It's bitter. It's kind of bitter and sweet at the same time, or any other, really nice. You can have peppermint tea, you can have ginger tea, again, based on your digestive type. So if someone has a cold digestion, you are not going to want to use mint. And sometimes it can make it worse. But so you would want to use something warming like ginger or fennel or fenugreek. But if you have a hot digestion, which again, all of this is in my free course, then you're going to want to use things like mint and chamomile. So just a little tip and hint for that. All right, habit number 8. So address estrogen dominance in women, of course. So your bile is what used to take estrogen from the body and kick it out of there and keep everything balanced. And so when we're suffering with digestion, and when we get our gallbladder out. So it's both. If you have your gallbladder, but you're also struggling with digestion, you're having probably a hormone problem. And if you get your gallbladder out, we didn't fix the digestion, so now it's even a worse problem. And so signs of estrogen dominance are going to be things like weight gain around your hips and belly, also around your boobs. Like when people start to get really top heavy, obviously without surgery, I start to go, okay, we have some estrogen dominance here. Mood swings, brain fog, heavy cycles, and we start to say things like, oh, I'm, perimenopausal, I'm getting older, I'm just stressed out. Um, but if you're having estrogen dominance, it's something that can actually be fixed and balanced. Fatigue, even after sleeping, we start to get this kind of chronic fatigue, feeling heavy all the time. So the things I do is have cruciferous vegetables every day. At least one serve, like big serving. So if it's going to come in with lunch or it's going to come with dinner, and then also beans. And there's a protocol for that. But Karen Hurd, we talk about how beans are used for healing, and so it's not just adding, refried beans to your whatever. Anyway, it's a way to use them. Also, fix constipation. If you're constipated, it's not normal. It's common, and it's actually dangerous. So we need to not just, and when I say fix constipation, I'm not talking about just go to the bathroom. I'm saying from mouth to anus, make sure everything is moving smooth and in a timely fashion, right? All right. Tip number 9 is rebuilding your gut lining. So this is where there's constant bile dripping and it irritates the small intestines. And so many women will develop what they call leaky gut, which I had, right? And it's food sensitivities, you get skin issues, inflammation, and it is just not fun. But it's something that you can heal. So the things that I would do for that are using herbs like slippery elm, aloe vera, and marshmallow root to really start to heal the gut lining. Bone broth is great for that. And there's also zinc but I hesitate to use supplements because they're isolated and they're sometimes they push you, and so like if you use too much zinc, you don't get enough copper. And so you go into copper deficiency. And so I would say use that as a last resort. All right. So again, avoid ibuprofen, NSAIDs, and because they damage the gut lining. All right, habit number 10, we're almost done, is having a morning nervous system reset. And I know when I don't do my morning routine, if something throws it off, I feel kind of off all day long. So your body can only digest well when it is in rest and digest and not a stressful situation. And that's the fight or flight response. And so every single woman who has ever come to me and joined my program, we always work on the nervous system because for some reason, the women who come to me are one, highly educated. They've done their research. They know they've tried things and they're frustrated. Number two, that comes with that is they have a lot of get up and go. They are active, they are smart, they're go-getters, and they live in a chronic state of stress. And so we always bring them back and relax them. And also being sick causes stress in our lives and in our bodies. So first thing I do is scripture and prayer before screens. Have a set time, a set place that you do this. And 5 minutes of morning deep breathing. Just you can use different breathing practices if you want, or just big deep belly breathing. Again, that warm lemon water with a little bit of salt before anything like coffee. Like save coffee if you're going to have it for way later, not on an empty stomach. And then gratitude journaling or something of the like also lowers cortisol. I have on my wall here that you can't see, but I got this decal from Amazon. It's a tree. It's kind of a naked tree. And then I ordered sticky notes, but they're in the shape of leaves. And so every morning I try to write 5 things I'm grateful for and then stick them up there so this tree gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the goal is, I started this last year, is that by the end of the year, my whole wall is full of these beautiful leaves, and every single leaf has something I'm grateful for. Or also, I have when friends come over, I ask them to do some when the boys' friends come over. And so I have their gratitudes up there too. So if ever I'm kind of feeling like, oh, I'm just kind of feeling not good or just kind of down, I can go look at this tree and remember all the things that I'm grateful for and that other people are grateful for. It's really a blessing. Psalms 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." And I have a tattoo, and I'm not much of a tattoo person, but this scripture speaks so much to me that my tattoo says, "Be still and know." And then it has a flower that represents happiness, peace, wisdom, and transformation. Because that is so important to me, is to be still. When I'm still, I know. I find answers, I find peace, I find space. And that stillness is where healing begins. And if you have a problem sitting in stillness, like I did for many, many years, um, then this is actually, you need to do this even more because we should feel very comfortable in that stillness. All right, so the 10 habits, let's run through them again. The 10 habits are ox bile with every fat containing meal, digestive bitters before your meals, um, small meals, so don't stuff yourself, support your liver every single day, replenish fat soluble vitamins, gently move after eating, intentionally hydrate with electrolytes, address estrogen dominance directly, rebuild your gut lining, and have a morning nervous system reset. You are not broken. You are fearfully, reverently, wonderfully, beautifully made, and God designed your body to heal. Every account in scripture points to restoration, to healing. We just need to align with his patterns and his promise principles to receive his promises that are already ours. So there is a free training. I mentioned 3 easy tips to heal digestion in 7 days, and I will link that in the description. And it's made just for women without a gallbladder or those staring down the barrel with poor digestion. All right, drop the word healed in the comments so that I know that you stay till the end. And if you have other topics you need me to address or would like me to address, put it there. And also, I want you to like, subscribe, watch the next video, and share with me your story. I read every single one and I pray over every single one. Every video on this channel is specifically made for women navigating life without a gallbladder, or to help you avoid losing yours. So you have found your people. Stay here and I will see you in the next video.